in Detroit, Catherine Markle in New York, ZG Gallery in Chicago, and museums such as the McDonough Museum in Youngstown and the Butler Institute of American Art. And I've been in a bunch of art fairs in Houston and Palm Springs and art on paper in New York, and that was really great. I have been lucky enough to receive grants from the Ohio Arts Council Individual Excellence Fellowship twice, and recently a recipient of the Satellite Emergency Fund from Spaces and the Warhol Foundation, and published in different journals around the country. And I'm thrilled to have this show at the Carnegie Center for Art and History. It's been such a pleasure to work with Al and Daniel and everyone there. They've been so great. And making the spray paintings was really fun. I hope that you guys can get down to see them. The way that they mix with the paintings on linen and the work on paper is exciting for me. I hope you'll enjoy them. So we're here to talk about our work and parenthood and motherhood. My work is about relationships between parents and children, between friends, between people and nature. I deal with moments that make one want to cuss, kind of. They're tense, and I try to show parenthood and its frustrations through women in action, rather than the way that women have traditionally been portrayed in the past as just still objects. The women in my work are in motion. And recently I've been diving into COVID-19 inspired imagery. So thinking about the way that COVID has undermined the way that we care for one another, this and the impact that it's had on families and women in particular. I know, Al, you mentioned in the statement for this talk, the way that women have fallen out of the workforce because of COVID-19, since kids are out of school and they're home, because traditionally women seem to be still making less money than the men. It makes more sense for the household for them to stay home and take care of the kids. And so I'm dealing with some of these issues in my new work, and that's been really fun. But is that enough time?
I unmuted myself. Sarah, can you introduce yourself, please?
Thank you, Al, so much for asking me to be part of this panel with these wonderful artists and mothers. My name is Sarah Calloway, and I'm a musician, I'm a violinist, I'm a teacher, I'm also an executive director of a nonprofit. So, kind of getting some of the questions and the ideas for today, I really had to take a step back to kind of look at things from afar, because I feel like I'm so sometimes in survival mode, especially since COVID, but also having two very young ones and balancing work and self and creativity. So I have a 3-month-old and a 22-month-old, two little boys. And I've been so lucky to be able to continue working. There's a lot of things about my job that keep it very flexible, and I have a lot of family around. So I just want to thank all the family that have stepped in and allowed me to continue my work full force. So I am classically trained. I have a master's in classical violin, but I've used that to explore a lot of different pathways, from playing in a traditional orchestra, from touring through China to playing experimental noise shows, and working with composers and sound artists and electronic musicians to really explore my instrument to all the pushing its limits. I've also done a lot of work exploring sound and music and nature through both curating and making some homemade instruments. I've done some stuff with my students with that too. Yeah, and I think the past 3 years, when I took over as executive director here at the Louisville Academy of Music, my work has shifted a lot more into getting to know the nonprofit world, thinking more about education, balancing my teaching with the work that I was doing before. And then of course, COVID has changed all of that because, with musicians, live performance is gone. So a lot of those goals, music is really centered around playing together. So a lot of the performances that I was doing before are now gone. So trying to figure out how to still be creative and still create those goals for myself when there isn't the end product in the same way. I've done a little bit of socially distanced recording and performing, but definitely not in the same way and not on the same level as before. But yeah, I've always loved wearing lots of different hats and doing lots of different things. And so I think being a mother and trying to balance that has just completed me in a lot of ways, and enriched my work and made me, a lot more thankful and in the moment for sure. So yeah, it's always, I feel like I'm always exploring and still in that, learning how to balance that creativity. So I'm definitely not an expert, but I'm happy to be exploring this topic on this panel.
Thank you, Sarah. How about you, Skylar? You wear a lot of hats too.
Yes, yes. Well, thank you, Al, for the invitation to participate, and it's good to see Elmer Lucille. And I'm so excited to talk to just hear Dana and Sarah's perspectives. And this topic, just to rewind, is something that I've been thinking about for a long time. So I have two girls, a 10-year-old, which is crazy to think about, that I've been a mother for 10 years, and a 6-year-old who's almost 7. But when my first daughter she wasn't quite 2, I had an art exhibit with another artist who had recently become a mom. Her kids were a little older than mine, but and the show was called With Child, and it was called Art and Parenting. And the basic idea for the show, we hatched it because we were like, if we don't keep each other accountable, we might not make art anymore, because we were both teaching full time, both teaching art. And I mean, I was just like, I'm never going to make art again. Like, how am I going to find the time? And I was so cooked by the end of the day after teaching, and then having this baby. So we came up with this show, and we invited other new parents to participate, moms and dads. And it was great. I mean, it was just a great way to explore this topic. And I feel like this topic has become more talked about, because that show, I think, was 2012. And now there's an Artist Mother podcast, and it's on Instagram. And I feel like it's just more talked about, because when I hatched this show with my friend Lisa Simon, and it was the first of many shows we would do together, we were like, where are the other parents who are artists? Where are they? Are they making art? And I just, you saw it a little bit in the art world, maybe with the feminist movement, art that was being made in the 70s, but I just wasn't seeing it as much as I thought I would. And I guess I was looking for it more when I became a mother. But just a little bit about myself. So I am primarily a painter, and I've spent the last decade building an art college. So I'm in art education, and I was a teacher, and did some administrative work there as well. so I've always been very invested in education, and then I've done some curation. So I've curated some shows, and I was actually working on a show, and our opening was scheduled for March 12th of this year, which was basically the day that the city of Louisville shut down and they announced schools were closing. And so the opening was canceled. So, it's just been kind of a wild ride, this year with the show that I had set to go, and now I'm so grateful that the show is at 21C Museum, and it's kind of had this life that I never expected it to have. But anyway, yeah, I think I think I've learned a lot about creativity and art making, and I've been stretched a lot with becoming a parent, and what creativity and art making means to me. So maybe we can explore that more as we discuss things tonight.
Yeah, I think that's great. I thought, when you mentioned whether you would ever have time once you became a parent to be an artist again, that is something that I find kind of interesting. In terms of what is your, what about your own personal needs? How do you reconcile that when you're also a parent, and sometimes creativity can seem to be a very personally indulgent kind of thing.
Yeah.
I find myself as a parent on occasion, no, well, good, as a parent, sometimes feeling, am I shortchanging my family because I have this need to be an artist? Can you guys pick up on any of that? Anybody?
Yeah.
Okay. Dana,
Yeah,
would
totally.
shake her head no. Okay.
Well, I think I differ from Sarah and Skylar because I don't have another job that I have to work. So it's a lot easier for me, I think, to just be like, well, this is what I do. This is my work. But also that idea that being creative is a selfish thing isn't good or helpful to us at all as artists or parents or the community at large. I mean, our job as artists is to filter ideas and emotion through our work, and with it engage other people to change the culture. That's a huge, enormous gift to be able to do that work. And I never feel guilty about doing that. I think it's extremely important. And I'm happy and lucky to be able to do it too, though. But I'm sorry, Sarah and Skylar, did you want to take that somewhere?
Well, I was just thinking about that word selfish today. And yeah, I mean, it's so inspiring to hear you say that, Dana, because I have struggled with that. And I think especially when I first had my first child, I didn't get in the studio very much in the early days. And when I did, I would start to feel I would feel the selfish feeling and I need to be very protective of my time. I need my time. And then I would feel guilty. I'd be like, but this baby, I mean, caring for an infant is very different than caring for a 10-year-old. And I can see that now. Like, an infant is helpless. They need so much. And Sarah, you're in the thick of it.
Mhm.
They need so much, literally, they cannot take care of themselves. I now have a child that can make herself a meal, and can put herself to bed. And so it's so different. But in the early stages, I just did have that feeling I almost don't want to make art because I don't want to have that selfish feeling. And I do think a lot of that is just kind of the social construct of, that's often put on women, that we should be selfless. and there were the nurturers and all these things, which I think are totally shifting now more than ever, with parents, and it's much more balanced, and sometimes the dads are stay at home, or we have different scenarios now, but I did feel that pressure, that like, because I already was working full time, so my baby was in daycare at 3 months old,
Oh, that's hard.
and it was so hard, and I mean still hard when I think about it. And I just remember being like, wait, does anyone else think this is hard? Like, so many people do this, so is it just me? And so it was like, or that guilt that I was working all day, and but then I wanted to be in the studio. I was like, oh no, so it's just that compounded kind of. But I do think it's, there's, now I can see that there are like stages of motherhood. There's stages of being an artist in our own like artistic development. And I'm not a full-time teacher anymore, so I actually have a little more space to be in my
Congratulations.
studio. Thank you. Yes. And I will say, back to your point, Al, that the pandemic has forced me to literally like sit still more. And because I haven't been able to leave my house as much. I've had to stay home with the kids because my husband works outside of the home. So I've had to be home, and my studio's in my house. And I've made more work this year than I've probably made like since I've had kids. Because I haven't been running all over town and distracting myself with other things and projects, and I've been more still. So anyways, but I think it's become easier for me to be selfish now that my kids are older. I
gotta
should
stop
say.
using that word.
I know.
Seriously, because it starts with how we feel about it, right? Like, so if we feel like we're being selfish, we're, the whole social construct is around because we're letting it. I mean, it's not because we're letting it, but we are letting it. And so we need to
Perpetuating it.
like, stop it, right? Like, I understand what you're saying though, and I understand the feeling, the guilt. The motherhood guilt is serious. It's serious stuff, because we only have 24 hours in a day, right? So we have to make choices. And everybody's choices are going to look different. But if we start feeling guilty for the things that we need for our own personal well-being or for our own work, it's never going to get any better.
Right.
It's interesting though, the feeling of guilt and selfishness that's been an issue for me way before I was a mother, as thinking about, what good is it going to do if I'm practicing 5 hours a day? Like what does classical music mean in our society? Like, how is this relevant? For me, I felt like I wanted to try to explore, how to, and I think that's why I'm so drawn to education. I mean, I've always wanted to be a teacher, but, really trying to not just have it be for myself or for just making myself. I think part of my practice is for myself, and it is bettering myself and inspiring me to be the best person I can be, but also then thinking how it fits into the world and how I can use that to make a difference. So I feel like that word of, is this selfish, has been there for a long time. And then I think, because I am working from home, I've tried to kind of bring my kids into that world of music making, or even improvising. One of them will get up on the piano and then shifting my practice to play with him. thinking that it's also creating an environment and I'm setting an example as a mother by taking that time, but also letting them see that, you know, not bringing it totally to another place, but bringing them to, you know, when I was going to rehearsals, having them in the little rocker in the rehearsal hall with a grandma or something, that they're invited into that world too.
Yeah, I think maybe a word I use in my own practice is self-indulgent, maybe because, but let me ask this question too. Since, you know, you guys are creative individuals, you're drawn to what you do. Is there an element of self-care involved in that? I mean, if you don't get to do that, what's that like?
Yeah. So, do you guys mind if I jump in here?
No.
So, so I have one child, one son. His name's Arlo, and he is a trip, and I love him. But when he was born, I was not ready, and I had a really tough time. And he was colicky, and he cried all the time, and it was really, really hard. And I probably had postpartum depression, but I always just thought, like, this is just a crap situation. Like, I don't think this has anything to do with some kind of clinical whatever. Like, this just sucks. And it would suck for anybody. I don't care if somebody thinks it's my hormones. Hormones out of the way. This would have been a crap situation for anyone. And so I kept thinking, like, I need to get in the studio because that, you know, will make me feel better than going to a shrink for an hour that I can't afford anyway. You know, so I remember thinking at that early time, you know, it was like sleep in my studio and caring for my baby. It was all I could handle. Like, so a lot of things fell out of the way. Like, I've always been, when it comes to self-care, I've always been good at prioritizing and just like dropping off everything at the bottom. So my house was a mess. My poor husband was neglected, like, you know, but I was getting the stuff that I needed done so that I didn't completely fall apart. And with the pandemic, it's been so an odd byproduct, like Skylar was saying, is that we have, and Sarah too, actually, that we have so much more time now. So I'm not getting as much work done like Skylar is because of homeschool and teaching a 6-year-old how to navigate a Zoom window in a Google browser. Like, so I'm not getting as much work done now, but I'm, you know, getting enough time to exercise. I'm sleeping 9 or 10 hours a night, which I realized lately is what I need. That was my main problem too when I had an infant.
Right.
And you can't sleep. Like, you know, some people can, like my husband, he can be good on 4 hours. He's good to go. But me, I need like 9. But anyway, so that's been great. I'm sorry to make you feel bad, Sarah. What are you getting? Are you getting like, you getting like 2 broken hours and then
No, it's kind of little. I have good sleepers, but it's still not through the night. So
yeah.
But
Yeah.
we're
That puts you in a whole different state of mind. I mean, it does me. Also needing sleep is just feeling like things are surreal if I don't get enough sleep. And yeah.
But I think also part of that, you know, like it's definitely been, you know, something that did fall out very quickly was practicing, but putting that back into like the first thing I do when I wake up, even when it's with the boys, you know, I think that is self-care for me. It just like wakes up my brain. It focuses me back in. Like if I don't practice for a day, I feel like I didn't eat breakfast or something, you know, even if it's just 10 minutes, I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't touch my violin. Like I feel empty. And it would be the same way if I didn't see my kids for a day. You feel like a part of you is missing. It is all part of, you know, being whole. And then I think also figuring out how to, you know, shift mentally. It's so easy to get caught in the news and so many depressing things in the world. And then along with just everything you know, you make plans and something gets canceled, or you finally figure something out and then everything changes again. You know, taking a lesson from having young kids of being just really present and trying
Flexible.
to be flexible and and trying to change that mindset of, you know, getting negative.
And I do think, like, well, for me, just the act of creation is super positive and hopeful. Like the fact that you're making something new, or you're practicing in the morning. I mean, that has so much hope in it. And I do think as artists, like ultimately we want to share what we make. You know, it's like, what's the point of making it if we don't share it, even if it's just with one person? So there is that, like, there's that hope that one day I'm going to make this thing, and one day I will share it again with like someone outside of my household, you know. And so for me, like, and this is early pandemic days when we just really did not know what was going on. There was so much uncertainty, there still is, but it really, like, we knew nothing, right, about what this thing was and how you could get it, and we had no leadership, right? So I just think there was so much fear because so much uncertainty. So when I was home, like every day, figuring out the homeschooling deal and like not knowing how long this was going to last. And it was like I would get down in the studio and I was just making these like really small pieces. They're like actually behind me. They're like 6 by 6 inches, like really small. I could like do one in like a couple hours. And, you know, I didn't know what my kids were doing upstairs. I was just like, I don't care. Like, as long as they don't come down bleeding, you know, like they're fine. I don't care if they're watching TV. Like, I really, at a certain point, I was like, I just need this time to create something. And it was also for me this, like, because so much of the day was just this kind of the invisible labor, you know, that of course a lot of people have talked about with parenting and just all the things you do, but then at the end of the day you can't see them because they've all been undone. And you know, so that I could like create a physical object and I could come back the next day and look at it and say, oh my gosh, I made that. Like, I actually made something, and it's a physical thing. It's here. For me, I just realized how much I needed that, and it gave me self-confidence. It gave me a sense of identity. It gave me a sense of like self-worth. And I did have this feeling. I was like, wow, I really think making art right now is like saving me, like saving my life, saving my sanity. And I don't know if I had felt that way about making art before. Like, and then I also, like, online, everything we saw on social media, especially in the early days, it was artists making things. I mean, it was musicians playing on Facebook and Instagram and artists posting art. And I mean, that's what I saw. I saw artists just like sharing their work for free, you know, because so many people were home freaking out. And so I realized, I was like, okay, you know, art, it's definitely helping me, but I see it in the world. I see that it's helping other people, you know, and artists want to share that. So I definitely think there's a connection with creativity and self-care. And I have felt that this year for sure.
Is it okay not to be creative?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I have friends that are like, I wish I could be creative. I wish I, you know, or students have said that to me. I wish I was more creative. And I think we all are creative. I mean, I think that's just a part of being human. I think we all have creativity. And but there are things that that we put in front of ourselves, and things that we tell ourselves that we're not creative and we can't be creative, we can't be an artist. But I think we all have creativity.
And
I
maybe
think
it's
as a mom,
shifting how we're thinking about creativity too. You know,
Yeah.
where we find ourselves being creative outside of our art forms.
Yeah, it could be cooking. I mean, cooking's creative. I mean, there's so many creative outlets.
it's also a muscle that can be flexed. So, people talk about having dry spells or not being creative at times. And I don't judge anybody. Everybody's practice is different. However you get through your stuff is great. But for me, I like Sarah wanting to touch your violin every day. I have to go into the studio every day. Now, creativity and output are a little different, but I find that another great thing about COVID this year is I've had more time to think. And when people say stuff like, oh, I'm not creative, I think it has to do with practice and just not having enough quiet time to quiet your mind and really think about something and what you want to say or what you think about things. I mean, if you're just always blasting yourself with information, which is something that's never been easier, then you're never going to have time to reflect on anything. So for me, sometimes just being in the studio and thinking and writing or sketching is enough.
Yeah, so I asked a follow-up question about like how do you keep your creative flame burning, when everything else around us seems so uncertain? Maybe your creativity is your certainty.
I don't think of creativity like a flame, like a muse or something. It's just there. It's always there.
I definitely get jolts of inspiration like that. They do seem kind of just to come out of nowhere, and I don't know if I would think that is a flame. But sometimes, I mean, I think I need to read about other artists. I think I need to look at artists that I'm interested in. I think I need to talk to other artists. When I was teaching full time, one of the only ways I would get myself in the studio is I would get a show together, so I would have a deadline, and then I was like, okay, I've got to make art because there's blank walls in this gallery in a year. I've got a year to like make something to put, so I would, I would force it by getting a show. So I would have to make work because otherwise I would put it off. I would think that I had other things that were more important than my studio. So I feel like that's shifting now, but for a long time, and like I said, I found this fellow artist who's also a mom, and we've done 3 shows together, and we would come up with themes that we were thinking about and build shows around them, and that way I would make art because I had that deadline looming. So I think putting, creating situations where you have pressure, that can force creativity, that can force the flame if you can't wait for it all the time. Sometimes you have to create the circumstances to make it burn, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I experienced that too, having a goal or having a performance or having somebody create a space where I need to fill it with something, even if it's sound, that really drives my creativity. But I think also, that creativity is in everything I do, whether it's something on the computer or something that seems really mundane, so sometimes when I feel like I'm losing that spark, what helps me is like dancing or like moving in a really funny way, and then I don't know, it kind of loosens me up from feeling stuck.
Cool.
That kind of movement is always helped me kind of wake back up.
Oh, that's really
Good.
cool.
Yeah, getting in your body, like out of your head.
That's, yeah, and I think that's a lot
Yeah.
of the mental shift for me, is definitely thinking, you know, away from your head and more just being, trusting intuition more. I think like having kids, and also being in all this COVID stuff, you just don't have time to like second guess things. You just have to do it. You have to like make a decision and you go, and
Yeah.
you know, you're just like, well, this is me and I'm gonna move ahead and this is what I believe in, you know, trusting that gut more, which I think is good. I found that helpful. Good. Mhm.
Have you noticed any kind of like, I call them silver linings in the moment, in terms of, are your children interested in what you do more? Are you involving them more in your own personal creativity? How's that working for you guys? Is Arlo an artist?
No, I'm thrilled to say he's not. His life will be a lot easier if he could be interested in something else. But no, he's really great and he's super supportive of my work. And it's so cute because he's getting older and he's getting more of this personality and he's proud of me. And it's so darn sweet. I can't even stand it. So my studio is right off of the room where I have him set up with his little minion desk and his laptop and his remote school. And, you know, so my studio day has been really choppy because he'll have a meeting for an hour and then he'll come in here and I'm like in the flow. I'm in the thick of it working and I have to like snap out of it, like put the blinders on, like look at your son in the face while he's speaking to you right now. He's taken to wanting me to photograph him in front of my paintings all the time, which is really fun. And so it's kind of a neat way to like do progress shots and like scale the work. And sometimes I put them on Instagram or whatever, and people are sweet about it. And we've gotten a kick out of it. And the only thing I'm bummed out about is that he's starting to get really fun to bring to shows. And so I'm hoping that there'll be more shows soon in the future because he's fun to bring to those, and people get a kick out of him being around. And but yeah, other than that, I remember when he was a baby, I would set him up on that little, you know, they had those infant like play mats with the spongy dome thing over it, and it would have little hangy toys. I would like set him in it and be like, please just like sit here for, you know, half an hour so I can work. And he never would. He was always like scooting out, roaming around, grabbing stuff. So he's never really been in the studio with me. I have a separate studio from the painting studio that's on another room over here, and it's kind of like a shipping studio. And so a lot of the finished work goes in there. And one of his favorite things to do is to, like at night, he'll say, Mom, can we go lay down on the carpet? And we'll just lay on the floor and look up at the paintings on the wall. And that's one of our, it's really sweet and fun. Other than that, no, we don't like, collaborate on paintings or anything like that.
Your
I mean,
girl-
I would say silver lining for me has just been like slowing down. I mean, like I just realized how many activities we had after school, and you know, like we just go and sports. And I think because all of that has shut down, it's just been like, oh God, why were we doing that? I mean, like I know they liked Girl Scouts, like it was great, but like that was a pain in the ass, you know. And like it's just, you know, you don't want to go anywhere at 6 o'clock at night on like a school night with your kids. Like it's just so the silver lining has been just to, you know, and maybe they miss those activities, but I don't miss like driving around after school, like every, you know, and just always being so busy. And like I think this image will be like stuck in my mind forever, because we were like, I literally watched the spring like unfold for the first time probably in my life, because we have our front porch, we have this red bud tree, And I just remember coming outside every day because we couldn't leave our house, and watching the tree bloom. In a way, it was like time lapse. I mean, because, under normal circumstances, just with my life, it would sort of, all of a sudden I'd be like, oh my gosh, look at that redbud tree. Like, it would strike me when it's in full bloom, and I would realize how beautiful it was. But to watch, like, slowly this redbud tree transform, whenever that was, in April or whatever, that was really amazing. And I guess, again, I realized how I had been just kind of rushing through my days, and not noticing things like that, which, I want to notice those things more. So I think this is like a defining moment for all of us going through this pandemic. And I mean, especially for our kids, like, I wonder how it will shape them, moving forward. But yeah, I want to take some of these lessons, like, into when this pandemic goes away. And one thing is just like, yeah, what's essential, do we need to, am I distracting myself and being busy because I don't really want to look at things that are scary? Or, I mean, all those things, like, because we don't do social things anymore. Like, this is our social thing, what we're doing tonight. So we've had more time, like you're saying, Dana, to reflect, I think, because we've had to sit still, and we haven't been able to distract ourselves like we have in the past. So for me, that's been a good thing. I mean, and I don't know, I've taken some things from that. So I hope that I can carry that forward, like, for years to come. But
Yeah. It's interesting because I think COVID, for me, having such young kids, probably my life wouldn't have been that much different, because I'm, kind of isolated at home. And
right.
but it's taken all the pressure off. I don't feel like I have to be performing, or that people are going to be looking that I'm, here at this place or going to this. It's been nice kind of seeing that maybe I can do that afterwards too, take some of that pressure off myself to be doing everything. And then I think just learning how to let go, that's been a silver lining. Just, go with it. Some things we just don't have control, and that's okay.
Yeah. Some people are kind of overachiever types too, and sometimes you can see people getting burned in the process. But yeah, I think taking it slow is certainly, first of all, I can't remember what day of the week it is.
I know.
And all of the things I thought I might do in this pandemic moment, I don't know if this pertains to you too. I thought I would read more books than I did, but
I'm reading a lot.
are you
Yeah.
reading a lot?
Yeah.
I don't have the patience for it. I'll sit and I can read magazine articles, but I've been trying to go through the Overstory, Dan Brown's book, and it's very long and it's very dense. But I can read maybe 20 pages at a time before something else has attacked my attention, and I kind of wonder if some of you might be feeling a little dislocated in time as well. So.
Yeah, I've actually, and I've been meditating all year. I started in January of 2020, meditating every day, but I really started listening to a bunch of different speakers and, Buddhist Dalai Lamas, and speaking about meditation. And that has really helped me with trying to be mindful and aware of my attention and everything that I'm doing and thinking, trying to be very purposeful with it. Because if, I'll see myself having a bad attitude about something, And if I'm more mindful, I can get to it quicker and realize that I'm the one making the problem for myself. Like if I'm distracted, it's because I'm letting myself be distracted. It's because I'm not paying attention to what my mind is doing. And that's been something that I've been really working on with the COVID, because I saw my attitude getting really bad around September, October, and I was like, all right, I got to do something about this. And so I actually stopped drinking almost completely. And that helped too. I wasn't drinking a lot, but I was having a glass of wine every night. And I was so tired. I was exhausted all the time. And I was like, why am I so tired? I'm getting 8 or 9 hours of sleep. And then I started hearing people talking about how their REM sleep was interrupted when they drank, like they could track it on their Apple Watch or whatever. And so I tried it, and I think a combination of just the meditation and getting some better sleep, I'm feeling more like I have more purchase on what my mind is doing. So that's been helpful.
Just a quick thing here. We have just 10 minutes left in this conversation. And so I want to make sure that anybody else out there who is listening in, if you would like to ask a question, please do so. Type it in the chat feature and we'll get it out there. Okay. Any advice that you can give to young creatives, about maybe other mothers too that are trying to, achieve this balance? I keep thinking about this, the thing I heard on NPR a couple of weeks ago, and I kind of introduced my letter to you by saying, that women were dropping out of the workforce at 4 times the rate that men are right now. And that is just unbelievable. And
Crazy.
so any words of advice that you can give to anybody out there? And please, if you have questions out there, please type them in. Okay.
I think it's crucial to have a partner that supports your creative endeavors. Like, I think that's gotta, I mean, and for single parents, I'm sure it's very hard to manage that. But yeah, I think having someone who's like understands that you need the creative time and that supports your work and that sees that it's valid. I mean, I think that's so important. So just, pick your partner well, I guess I should say.
Or
someone who supports your work.
Or hook up with friends and like pool your money together, like some kind of secular monastery thing, like.
Yeah, commune, have a commune. Yeah.
Yeah. Keep it cheap.
Yeah.
Keep living expenses low. That's my advice.
How about you, Sarah?
It's hard because I feel like everybody's in such a different situation, and I feel like my situation, I can be really flexible with work. I do have a really supportive spouse. My kids aren't colicky. I have family that lives here, so there's so many factors that that make my situation possible. So it's hard to, I don't know what I would have to know who I was giving advice to and what their situation was. But I guess just try to ease the pressure off yourself to be creative, make time when you can, but then also if you don't have time, it's okay. Be accepting of that and know that there will be time in the future. Or to find that, happiness and being in the moment, because, I'm at the beginning of this journey, but I can already see that it goes really fast with kids.
And Sarah, like with especially with little kids, every phase that they have, I mean, it maybe only lasts for like a month. So if it's not a good phase, it's temporary, and like, and it all is like as they grow. I mean, it's just in there's hard situations, but just knowing that they're going to be a different kid in like 6 months or a year. I mean, really very different. So I think it, like we've sort of talked about, just like embracing change, because it's inevitable, especially with raising kids.
Well, we
But
have a question from one of our listeners here, from Melissa Bean. How have your own childhoods helped you being artist moms? Were you inspired at young ages to press into your art form as a career? Thank you for your question. Anybody want to jump in?
Do you want me to start?
Go for it.
Okay, so my dad is a painter, and we had a kind of a non-traditional household growing up where my mom went to work and my dad stayed home and raised my brother and I because his studio was in the house. So he showed me what it looked like to be an artist that went to work every day and Saturday, every day during the week and Saturday. However, my dad, he had a little bit of success before my brother and I were born, but then after we were born, he just completely retreated from the public eye and still to this day paints every day and Saturday, but no one has ever seen his work since I was born. So in that way, he also showed me that one shouldn't be too precious about one's work. If it's not perfect, sometimes you just have to get it out anyway. But yeah, I have always painted. I started painting when I was 3. It was something that my dad could give me to do to keep me busy so that he could work. And yeah, it was a great childhood though. Great way to grow up.
Yeah. How about you, Skylar? Artistic family?
Yeah, I'm really glad, Melissa, that you asked that question because I wanted to ask Dana and Sarah that question too. And just now that we're parents, like thinking about, like how our kids are around, art with us. I think it's really connected. My mom is very creative. She's an artist herself. She doesn't show her work. And she probably wouldn't think of herself as an artist, but she's super creative. And I was kind of like a hyperactive kid. And she realized pretty early on that if she gave me a pencil and a piece of paper, I would like calm down and just like focus and stop bothering my siblings. So she was like just constantly like jamming a pencil in my hand, like my whole childhood. Like here's like she would just find scraps of paper like at the doctor's office, draw here, just draw. So and then I guess I got better because I was drawing all the time, but she encouraged my creativity, and I grew to love art. And she paid for extra art lessons after school and encouraged me to go to art school. Whereas my dad was like, how are you going to make a living for yourself? How are you going to get gainful employment? And my answer was always like, well, I'll be a teacher. I'll be a teacher and an artist, and I love teaching as well. But yeah, I think having parents that encourage creativity, I mean, it really makes such a big difference. And I don't know if I would be an artist today if I didn't have a supportive family with my artistic endeavors. So very crucial. And thank you, Mom and Dad, for supporting that.
Yeah, just quickly, my parents are not musicians, but my mom is very creative and is a visual artist and just creative in everything she does. So I think that really inspired my creativity. And as far as being kind of pressed into a career, I never felt like I was, and I just could never stop playing, and that's kind of how I ended up finding this career, and then also always loving to teach and being around kids too.
We have a minute or so left. Is there any other last questions out there that anybody would like to ask our panelists? And I'll just go ahead and say thank you all for participating in this. And Dana, please hope you get a chance to come back to Louisville and visit us again. Thank you again for your wonderful painting show. Everyone come out and see it. You have until the 23rd of January, I believe, to do so. And I guarantee you will enjoy that. I don't see any other questions. Anything that we needed to talk about that we didn't?
No, but I just wanted to say thank you to Sarah and Skylar for being here today. This was really fun. This is my social event for the month. Thank you so much for the adult conversation. Yay! Appreciate
Yeah.
it. Thank you, Al, for setting this.
Oh, you're most welcome, and thank you again. I guess it's 8 o'clock on the hour, and I know that you have kids to take care of, so and I do too, except mine are 19 and 24 now, so it doesn't end.
Oh,
I don't
wow.
have to
Wow.
do diapers, but each age has its own challenges. Thank you all. Again, this has been recorded, and we'll put it up. We'll try to get it up by next week. And I want to thank again Dana Oldfather, Sarah Calloway, and Skylar Smith. And in case any moms out there are interested, Skylar is going to be teaching a workshop tomorrow. So I want to make sure to plug that. And you can go to the Carnegie Center or our website or the library's website. And if you would like to register, you can. And you get a chance to interact with Skylar again.
And my kids will be there too with me.
Oh, what are they going to be doing?
They're going to be teaching it with me. They're very excited.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it'll be a family affair. So
well, that's
join in.
Thank you. I guess I'll go ahead and sign off from here. And I wish you all a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah, whatever your celebration is. And let's all just really root for 2021 being a better year than the last one was, the worst year of my life. But not just me, everyone else. Anyway, thank you all and have a good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.